Welcome everyone back to a Dire Dominion Mk4. I am your host Zentor, and today we're going to do a tutorial and overview of the Shopkeepers plugin, which is our current shop setup here on a Dire Dominion. So let's go ahead and get started. So Shopkeepers is a plugin to allow you to link into your economy and have players be able to sell, buy, trade any items that they want. The Shopkeepers plugin lets you set up villagers or actually any other mob that you'd like, as well as signs, as your interactable shop with its own dedicated inventory in order to sell or buy things. So what we're going to do is go ahead and warp to spawn in order to purchase our first shop. So here at the spawn, we have a guy that is an admin shop already set up. So this is the only admin shop here on a Dire Dominion, but admin shops are an option if you want to sell infinite amounts of things or have an infinite amount of funds in order to interact with your player base. But we won't be getting into that for now. So if we go ahead and look at his inventory, he's selling the Shopkeeper spawn egg, which is actually configurable to be any item within the game, but we have it set to a villager spawn egg for 25 emeralds. So we're going to go ahead and purchase one right now. And while we're at it, let's grab a second one. So it went ahead and took away the money from us, and we have the shopkeeper. Alternatively, if you're an admin on your server, you can type in a command, which would be shopkeeper give, the player name, and the amount of shopkeeper spawn eggs you want. Or you can actually create admin shops via the command as well. But we're going to stick to player shops for now. So we're going to go hop back over to our base and start playing around with this. All right, so back at base, we're going to take a look at the different types of shops that you can set up. So whenever you flip or cycle through your hotbar to the shop, you'll see a bunch of options right off the bat. Whenever you're holding the shop spawn egg in your hand, you want to look away from actual blocks so you don't accidentally interact with those. And you can cycle through your options that way. So just hitting right click or left click cycles up or down through the types of shops we have available. So we have a selling shop, selling items to player, buying shop, buying specific items from players, a trading shop, which is different because instead of using your default currency, in our case emeralds, you can actually set any item you want. So you can, for instance, if you don't want to do emeralds, you can say, I'm looking for diamonds, and I'll be giving you out this particular item, let's say shulker boxes, for diamonds, and we'll look at that again in a minute. And the last shop type is a bookshop, which makes book copies of any written book. All you have to do is feed it a book and quill or a writable book. So let's go ahead and look at the first and probably most used type of shop, the selling shop. So if we want to go ahead and create one, we have the shop in our hand, right click, it tells you you need a container. So we're going to go ahead and grab an inventory block. In this case, we'll use chests, but you can also use barrels as well because it's seen as an inventory block. So we right click on the shop, or excuse me, on the chest. It registers that inventory to your shopkeeper, and now you can place the shopkeeper anywhere within a configurable amount of the inventory. In our server's case, it's I think 50 blocks. That way you can put them in your basement, or put the inventory in your basement and put the shopkeeper on the top floor or whatnot. So we're going to right click, and it went ahead by default, put down a villager entity. This is the default villager without any variants taken into account yet. So when you right click on him, he looks just like a regular villager exchange, but instead it says shopkeeper at the top. In order to interact with him as the editor, you hold shift and right click, and it now brings up the editing menu. The editing menu has a bunch of options inside. You can change the shop name. So let's go ahead and call it like Freddy's Smeltery. Ah, can't spell today. Smeltery. And as you can see, floating above his name now, he has the name that we set to it. So if we go back in there, we can look at the other options. You can view the shop inventory. If you left click that, you see the chest opens up to take a look at the shop's inventory. You can turn on and off the notifications, which just sends a chat text whenever one of your items is sold. You can toggle between the baby variant if you want the small villagers instead, or you can also change between the profession. So let's go ahead and put them back to a regular, and then we're going to toggle through. And if you have the tooltips on, all right, so we're going to go ahead and toggle through the profession. So you left click or right click, and if you have tooltips on, it will tell you blast furnace, oops, or some of the other options. Wheat, that's the farmer. Fishing rod is the fisherman, obviously. Fletching table is the fletcher, and it will cycle through the look of each of those guys. So now we're on a fletcher. Go back in there. And you also have the option of changing between the biome variant. So between like the savanna or the plains or the snow biome versions of the Fletcher. And lastly, over here you have the badge color, which the badge is the thing that changes on the front of the shopkeeper or the villager whenever they advance in levels, like from novice all the way up to master. Beyond that, we have the delete menu. So if I hit delete and hit confirm, it'll disappear forever. But we don't want to do that for now. And then above that, we have the next page because you have up to 5 pages, which is also configurable up to 10 pages of inventory. And each inventory item takes up these 3 slots. So each column essentially will be an individual item. And this shows you which page you're currently on and what type of shop it is set to. So right now it's a selling shop. So now if we want to go ahead and set this guy up, we go into its inventory and we tell him what we want him to sell. So let's say we want to sell an iron ingot. We go into the editing menu and we can see the iron ingot is what we're here to sell. And you see these 2 blocks underneath it. These 2 blocks will tell the currency amount that you're willing to sell the item for. So if we left click on the bottom one, it will cycle through what your default currency is in individual items. But for instance, if you're using an inventory or a currency that can have block form, like gold or emeralds or whatnot, you can cycle through those. So if it's a very expensive item, you can set it by a block value or a combination of the 2. So 2 blocks and 1 emerald would be 18 plus 1 is 19 emeralds for that item. So cycling up is left click and cycling down is right click. It's the same for this, and it's also the same for this. So if you don't want to be selling a single iron ingot at a time, you can left click this all the way up to the full stack limit. And you can actually shift left click by the 10s to get up to the stack limit. So let's say we want to sell a full stack of iron for 1 block of emerald. So now it's set to that. And if we look at it, it'll tell the player, bring your 9 emeralds and you can get 64 iron ingots. It's currently X'd out because we don't have enough in there to sell it. So we go ahead and give a full stack, so it's 64 now. And now that trade is available. Now if I left click this, by default, it won't let me complete this transaction. I just made a fool of myself, didn't I? It normally wouldn't let you complete that transaction if you weren't in an op mode, which I am right now. But that was a good example to show what it would look like for the completed trade. And also, it gave me that notification. So as you can see here, Zentor bought 64 iron ingots from Freddy Smeltery. And you can see anywhere in the world that that trade has taken place. So I went ahead and took the money right out of my box, or out of my inventory, and it actually put it in there. All right, so we have a selling shop. Now let's look at the buying shops. So we're going to go ahead and grab our shopkeeper here. We're going to cycle through, looking away from blocks. We're going to cycle through to the buying shop. We're going to grab an inventory block. We'll skip a space there. And we're going to right click the inventory to register it to our shop. We're going to right click where we want him to be. And then we can now look at the editing menu. So what we're going to go ahead and do is put the item that we're looking to buy from players in here. So if, for instance, I want iron ingots and I'm going to pay you our money, which is emeralds, just grab your iron. You don't need a full stack. Just grab a single one here. Oops. And just place it in the shop. So now if we go into the editing menu, we have this menu. You can see the item now is on the bottom and the money is on the top. So if we cycle this up to 5, we look at this shop, it says the player can bring 1 iron ingot and get 5 emeralds. It's currently X'd out because we haven't supplied it with money to give to the players. So now that trade is available because it is in our inventory there, and you can complete the trade if you're a shopper. So 1 iron ingot was taken out, given to the shopkeeper, and it paid me 5 emeralds. Now, if you don't have the particular item that you're looking to purchase from players, you can also use name tags. You can take in a name tag. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Give Zentor, Zentor a name tag. We're going to run over here to the anvil. That's not the anvil. Right here. And we go to edit this, we can name this name tag what the item name is that we're looking to purchase. So for instance, I'm really low on iron and I want to buy iron ingots from players, but I don't have any currently. I can create this placeholder item essentially, which kind of an expensive placeholder in this particular situation. But if you're looking for something really fancy like beacons or netherite armor or ancient debris, then this comes in handy really, really well. So I have tooltips currently turned on in my default Minecraft, and you can see what the name of this item is, which is iron ingot. So if we go ahead and name this iron ingot, and it says iron ingot here, we can take this back over to our shop and place it down instead of the item that we're looking to purchase. So we're going to go ahead and reduce this so that this trade goes away. And we're going to set it up the way we were just talking about. So if we took the iron ingot here, or the name tag of the iron ingot, go to the editing menu, and we can now see an iron ingot, which it got from that name tag right here. So now we'll go ahead and set the trade amount, the amount that we're going to pay players. Oops, I didn't have to drag that, just cycle through this. We'll just go up to 10 this time. Stock it with 10 emeralds. And right click it like normal. Now says you can bring your iron ingot and get 10 emeralds, which is really handy in case you're looking for something you don't currently have, like I said, ancient debris or whatnot. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next type of shop, which is the trading shop, probably the most versatile. So we're going to give ourselves a shopkeeper once again, or a shopkeeper spawn egg. We're going to get a registerable inventory block. We're going to look away and cycle to the trading shop, register the inventory, and then go ahead and place him down. So we're going to be fancy this time. We're going to go with a baby, and we can now set him up as a trading shop. So we're going to go ahead and change his name to Lil Tykes Inferno Shop. Sure. And let's go ahead and change the baby variant. Why not? All right, so we're going to go ahead and set this guy up as a trading shop. So what we need to do is go ahead and place in an item that we're looking for our trades. So we'll go ahead and put an iron ingot in there, shift right click, and you can see it appearing at the top. Now we take the second item and place it down in the third slot here. So it now tells the player, we will pay you in iron ingots. I think I said that in reverse earlier, but we will pay you in iron ingots if you bring us books. So we go ahead and stock this up with some iron ingots and edit this. And let's say you've got to bring us 2 books. in exchange for 1 iron ingot. And we have our 2 books here. As you notice, whenever I put the item into this third slot, it didn't actually take away from the items. I had 2 books to start with, and I still have 2 books. So now that I look at the trade, it says this particular trader will give you 1 iron ingot in exchange for 2 books. So we put our 2 books up there, and we get our 1 iron ingot. We look at the inventory there, and it's updated as well. So we now have the 2 books, and our iron ingots have gone down by 1. So this is a very useful type of shop if you don't want to deal in the server's current currency, or if you're looking for very specific items and you have a large excess of something that you produce a lot of at your base. So the very last type of shop is very unique and kind of situational in use, but it is kind of interesting nonetheless. So let's go ahead and grab a shopkeeper one last time, and we're going to take a look at the book shopkeeper, the book selling trader. So we're going to place down an inventory block right here, grab our shopkeeper and cycle on to the bookshop, and we're going to right click on the inventory block and then place him down. Now what the what the bookshop allows you to do is sell already written books. So if you take a look at this random written book that I made, as the text, it's already signed. You can see that it's written by Zentor and its title right there, and it says the original. We can go into the inventory of the shop, place it down, and essentially fuel the bookshop with books and quills, and it will produce copies of that book for you to sell. So if we hit shift right click, let's say we're going to sell those for a single block of emerald each. So now we right click on this guy, and it says that for 9 emeralds, you will get a copy of the book Thuhui Ah. So let's go ahead and do that trade. Oh, we need more emeralds. Oh, we only have 3 here. Let's raid one of our other shops then. There we go. We need a copy of the Hui really bad. So we got our 9 emeralds while it brought the whole stack over. And we're going to go ahead and complete that trade. And you can see here, it took the amount, or it took the book and quill out of this inventory, put the money into it, and it generated a copy for the customer. So now you can see I have a copy of that book. So that's pretty cool, especially for roleplay and things like that, which we have plans for here in the future. But it is, somewhat situational, I guess. So that's going to cover the player side of things in order to get the Shopkeepers plugin up and running and how to interact with it. I think that is a really powerful and fun option and something you can do a lot with. Something we didn't talk about, let's hit on that really quick. Let's go ahead and get a Shopkeeper. You can see when we cycle onto the options here, down at the bottom, it says if you sneak and left and right click, it'll select the object type. And that's going to change what type of shopkeeper you're going to be placing down as far as its look. So by default, you have villagers, but you can also actually set it to any mob within the game or even signs. So if I hold shift and I right click, it'll cycle through the Dire Dominions options for what types of mobs you can currently use. Now there's a lot of them that I have deselected because I kind of find them silly to be using as shops, but these ones that I'm cycling through are available to our players here on the server. And not only are these available, but once you select those, if there's a variant in color, or some feature like that, you can actually cycle through those as well. So let's go take a look at one of them. See NPC as well. So you can use, if you have citizens, you can cycle through that and get a player's NPC. So if I wanted a copy of myself with my current skin, I can actually do that by cycling through it, through that option as well. But let's take a look at an axolotl, for instance. The axolotls have a lot of different colors and they're really cute. So let's go ahead and use an axolotl. But before we do that, we've got to get another inventory block. So let's create a chest. All right, let's go and put down this chest for the inventory. And we grab our spawn egg, and we want our axolotl to be, oops, I went to the wrong thing there. Let's swipe back to axolotl. I accidentally shift and clicked instead of just right clicking. So we're on axolotl, and if we look away from things and right click, it switches between selling, buying, trading, or bookshop. So this axolotl is going to be a selling guy, and we're going to go ahead, register him to that inventory block, and place him down. Now, if I hold shift and right click and go to the editing menu, you can see I can actually cycle through the baby variants. So you can have a tiny axolotl. And you can also cycle through the axolotl variants as far as their colors. So here, shift, right click. And that goes for any of the mobs that have a variant type at all. So that's a really fun little addition to the options available for shopkeepers in general. So that's going to conclude our tutorial for now on the player side of this plugin. If people are interested in the future for the installation and configuration, I can do that as well. But this will be a really powerful tool for our new players on our server, on the Dire Dominion and elsewhere. That's going to conclude our episode for today, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.